DasGupta. Presently, I am a professor at IIT Madras in the Department of Electrical Engineering. I was born in Kolkata, West Bengal, and that is, I was born in a typical middle-class Bengali family, you could say. This family has a lot of professionals. In fact, in my family, there are so many doctors. It was probably on the cards that I should also become a doctor, but somehow I changed track and I became an engineer. But in my family, yes, there are lots of professionals, and you can obviously guess from my face that I'm pretty old. I'm 60 years old, and but even then, even so many years ago, in our family, the education for the girls was a given. I mean, girls as well as boys were all educated formally. So there was a lot of family support that way. I never faced any problem in studying. In fact, it is quite interesting that, 40 years later, when I talked to some of my own women students, and I asked them whether they would like to do their PhD or not. And they talked about the familial pressure, saying that parents do not want them to do PhD because then it will be difficult to get them married and things like that. So I must say that way I was rather lucky to be born in a family which considered education not a hindrance, but allowed me to pursue my education. So, after my schooling, my father had a transferable job. He was in West Bengal Health Service. So I have actually traveled through many schools all over West Bengal. Some of them in Kolkata, some of them outside Kolkata. And anyway, after I finished my schooling, I finally did my school leaving exam from Brahmo Girls School. That school has already celebrated its centenary some 10 years back. So pretty old school. And after that, I did my +2 in Lady Brabourne College, another of very old, venerated girls' college in Kolkata. And then, of course, I joined engineering at Jadavpur University. So till then, I have never been outside West Bengal, but after I finished my graduation in engineering, I came to IIT Madras to do my master's. And since then, a lifelong association with IIT Madras has started. I did my MTech here. I continued to do my PhD. Then, of course, I took a break. For 5 years, I was outside Madras. I went abroad and all these things. And eventually, I came back and joined here in 1993 as a faculty member. And as I said, today I'm a professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering, IIT Madras. Well, yeah, like I said, almost everybody in my family, every generation, there are doctors, starting from my grandfather. It was also expected that I'll study medicine, And in fact, in my 11th, 12th, I did also have biology as my 4th paper. I used to love maths, but I also used to like biology a lot. And I cannot say that I was particularly interested in engineering at that point of time. So the idea was that I'll write the entrance examination. In those days, in West Bengal, there were joint entrance exam conducted for both engineering and medicine. So for engineering, you write the paper on maths, while for medicine, you write the paper on biology, and physics, chemistry, and English, these are common papers. So that was the idea, that I'll write for both, and then we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, we have overlooked one point. I was slightly younger. My age was less than 17 at the time of writing this entrance exam. And for medicine, the minimum age limit was 17 years old. I do not know why that kind of archaic rule was there, but it was there. So I was not allowed to write the entrance exam in medicine. So my father came up with a brilliant solution. I'm talking about 1978. And in those days, the coaching institutes were not really much there. So we used to study on our own for these competitive exams. So my father said, okay, why don't you write for engineering? So anyway, the physics, chemistry papers are common. So you will have some idea about what type of questions are asked and all that. So that next year when you write for medicine, you will have an advantage. So at that time, it seemed like a very brilliant idea. I said, fine, let's do that. And you'll be surprised to know that in West Bengal, there are not very many engineering colleges in those days, but there are some 4 or 5. And I have given only one choice, that is Jadavpur University, and only one branch, that is electronics and telecommunication. I wasn't really very keen, I mean, if I don't get it, I don't get it. If I get it, this is my choice, that kind of stuff. And and then as luck would have it, I cleared the exam and I got into Jadavpur University, electronics and telecommunication. And after 1 year, when my father asked me whether I should write the entrance exam for medicine again, obviously, I mean, I shut it down because by that time, more than the subject, I must be honest, more than the subject, it was the peer group, the group of friends. And we still have very good contacts, I mean, they're lifelong friends. So, I mean, I was not prepared to leave that group and go for medicine. So that was it. I am an engineer by accident. So, as I said, when I started engineering, it's not as if I had some particular liking or some particular interest in that. I was not like one of those kids who, rig up circuits or rig up things on their own. Those who show a kind of engineering aptitude. I cannot say that I was someone like that. But while studying in Jadavpur University, there were some professors who deeply influenced me. They taught very well. And I kind of felt, not just I think our whole batch kind of felt that there are more to engineering than what we are studying just now. And you will be surprised that out of our class of 33 students, I think nearly 30 students opted for higher studies. I mean, many of us came for higher studies, some in IIT Madras, we had got a big group, in IIT Kanpur, in IIT Kharagpur, IISc. So, I mean, I would say more than 25 people went for higher studies. So clearly, then our professors did a good job. They, they sowed the seed of curiosity to us. And then after coming to IIT Madras, we were very fortunate to have some professors who, when I came to IIT Madras, I was more interested in digital circuits. Now, again, because of the professors at Jadavpur University, we had some very good professors who taught us digital electronics, and I kind of thought that this is going to be my future. But then when we came to IIT Madras, I developed an interest for semiconductor devices or microelectronics. Again, thanks to some professors here who taught us extremely well. And within the first 1 year, I mean, I almost decided that I'm going to do my PhD, and this is going to be in the area of semiconductor devices. So that was it. And, I mean, I still have retained that love for semiconductor devices. And I really think that it's a wonderful area of research, and that's it. Like you said, I have led a pretty privileged life, I would say. Pretty privileged in the sense that my family was very supportive. I didn't really face any hardship during my education. I had a very good research group. So most people, they have a lot of frustrations during their PhD. I didn't really have anything like that. It was really all quite smooth sailing, you could say. The first hurdle I faced was after my PhD when I was looking for a job. It so happens that my husband and we work in the same area of research. Okay. And I found it extremely difficult to get into an institute where he was already working. logistics wise, it made sense for me to be in the same place. And unfortunately, that place had just this one institute and really nothing else. So, I had to look for a job in this institute. And though the institute didn't say it in so many words, they made it abundantly clear that they do not encourage husband and wife to work in the same institute, particularly when they also are working in the same area. So I found it very difficult to get a faculty position. The problem was when I was looking for jobs elsewhere, I was married by that time. And in quite a few institutes, after the technical interview was over, I was asked, you are married, so where is your husband? If he's working in this place XXX, then why aren't you looking for a position there? How will you manage? Your husband will be there, you will be here. Nothing to do with, technical stuff, but so that was very difficult. I must say that at that time, my husband was extremely supportive, and he said that, you should try to get a postdoctoral fellowship and try to move out and improve your CV. And so, I followed his advice and I received the Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship, which was a very prestigious fellowship. And that, you could say, was a turning point in my career. And it wouldn't have been possible unless my husband would have urged me to apply. By the time, my confidence was really at a very low ebb. I was applying to so many places and I was getting rejected. I really felt I was at a very low point in my career. So this Alexander von Humboldt Fellowship Award, it came at a very opportune moment, because had it not been for that, I might have taken some wrong decision. For example, I might have decided that, okay, I'll take a break, or I'll not pursue my career or something like that. I'm really thankful to VH Foundation that they saved my career. First person I must mention is my mother. Okay, she was not very highly educated per se, not formally very highly educated, because her family circumstances didn't allow her to pursue higher education. But she used to work before her marriage, and then again after her marriage, she had to quit her job because of very long hours. But she has always told me that these were her words. She used to quote Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Her family has a very good connect with Ramakrishna Mission. She always used to quote Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and tell me that since you are born a human being, you must leave a mark in this world. So that, I was very young at that time, but those words, that you must leave a mark in this world. You must do something so that people remember you even after you pass over. That was a very strong influence. And because she used to work before her marriage and she didn't work after that, she always told me that you mustn't make the same mistakes that I have made. See, eventually your kids will grow up and then you will feel that, now I have nothing to do. Now what should I do? So however difficult it is, you must continue to pursue your career. Very interestingly, after I got married, my mother-in-law told me exactly the same thing. She also used to work before her marriage, and she also left her job after her marriage. And she also told me exactly the same thing, that please do not make the same mistake. You probably will not need a job financially, but this is for yourself. This is for your self-belief and pride. After studying so much and everything, you shouldn't just leave all these things and sit at home. So, your mother telling you this is not very uncommon, but your mother-in-law telling you this is probably still not very common. So, needless to say that, I have a very strong bond with my mother-in-law, and it started then, right after my marriage. So apart from these two women in my life, of course, my father has been a very strong influence. My father is a doctor, as I keep telling you. And he has been living with me for this past 27 years, in fact, ever since my son was born. And he left his place in Kolkata and he actually came to Chennai. It must have been very difficult for him to adapt to a new place, new surrounding, where he doesn't know the language, he doesn't have any social life. But he chose to do that because he felt that I'll not be able to manage both my son and my job at the same time. You see, I don't have any brothers or sisters, right? So my father, he has been living with me ever since. And yeah, he has been a very, very strong support. And then finally, of course, my husband, as I told you that he has always made sure that, I do not feel too despondent when things are not going my way. And he has always given me very good advice and uh, kept me, kept my spirits up, I would say. So many professors and so many students. In fact, uh, I have been very fortunate that I had some very good professors. And today I am a professor myself, and I have actually modeled my teaching on some of their teaching. Whatever I liked about their teaching, I have tried to inculcate that when I am teaching my class. And then, of course, my students. Actually, my students are my greatest strength, I would say. It's so gratifying that students who have graduated some 10, 15, 20 years ago, they still remember me and they still send me messages on Teachers' Day or on all these occasions. And in fact, some years back, one student whom I taught way back in 94, 95, at that time, he suddenly sent me a mail in 2015. I was not very well at that time, so I was going through a very low phase in my life. And it just happened coincidentally. He sent me a mail saying that they had to design an asynchronous counter. While synchronous counters, they are very textbook. So you can design that by looking at any textbook. He said asynchronous counters, they do not really come, off the shelf, it's not very easy. And he said, but I suddenly remembered the way you designed an asynchronous counter. He mentioned the classroom and he said that in this classroom, you just put it on the blackboard, you just wrote out the truth table on the blackboard. And I suddenly remembered all these things and I could do that, I could design that. And all my colleagues were so surprised that it worked the first time. I don't think I have ever received a greater compliment than that. He said that, I could just do it. Madam, you wouldn't believe I could just do it. I could just remember how you taught this and I could just do it. And it worked the first time. So similarly, many other students, they have been my great support. Very difficult question, because what success means to me may not be success to somebody else. What do I think success means? I don't think it's a lot of money or it's a lot of recognition or anything like that. For me, success means a good work-life balance. I should be happy doing what I'm doing, and I should also have a good family life where my family members will also be happy. So that is what success means to me. And of course, failure is if I'm not able to do that. For example, I've been teaching for, as I said, 1993, I joined, so 29 years, right? If I feel bored teaching, then I would say I'm a failure. Okay, fortunately, I still don't feel bored teaching. It still opens new vistas. In fact, even this COVID pandemic, it taught us how to take effectively online classes and how to design your course effectively so that students are still engaged. Because I think all of us will agree that online classes means students can very easily get distracted. So keeping their attention during the class, you have to continuously reinvent yourself. You have to continuously innovate. So yes, so teaching still, I still find it very interesting. And then of course, research. Research is, I think for us, research is I would say teaching is the bread and butter and research is the cake that we eat. Okay, so that is the glamorous part of our job. And it is even today, it is so interesting. It is so interesting. I can't just believe, when a student was discussing with a student, and he says that yes, he has done some measurements, but he has not really interpreted the data. I say, how can you wait? I mean, aren't you dying to know what happens? I mean, that still drives me. You know, you have made something, and aren't you dying to know what you have got? How can you just take the measurement and say, I'll interpret the data later? So you know, so that is what I like most about my job. I still remember one event. This happened, I think, I don't remember the exact year, must be 2003 or 2002, something like that. At that time, a lot of my ex-students, lot of our ex-students were working in Bangalore. Okay. And we were visiting Bangalore on a personal visit. And I just happened to mail one of them saying that, yeah, I'll be in Bangalore on such and such day, and it'll be good if we can meet. And without, I mean, they didn't really let us in the whole thing. They said, yeah, sure, we'll meet for lunch. And they named a place. And when I went there, my husband and I, we both went there. We found that they have contacted all our ex-students who are in Bangalore. Everybody turned up, and they had two big bouquets of flowers. And I really felt like royalty, you know. I mean, they organized this lunch, and everybody turned up, and it was so nice. It was so thoughtful, such a thoughtful gesture on their part. And I really felt like royalty, you know. I mean, after meeting them, totally impromptu. They didn't tell us anything. There was no occasion, nothing like that. They just did it. Yeah, that really, I mean, told me that, you know, I mean, what I'm doing is not totally worthless. I mean, if I have been able to touch so many lives, then it's really great. And a similar event, I'll just tell you, went for a conference, not just one conference, quite a few conferences I had this experience. So this particular conference was happening at IIT Delhi, and I was an invited speaker, so I went there. And then after my talk, some students came and said if they can take a selfie with me. I said, yeah, sure, but why? And then you know what they said? They said that we are all your virtual students. They said that I have an NPTEL lecture series, a course on NPTEL. It's titled VLSI technology. They said we have all been studying this, and not only us, our seniors have also studied this, and they recommended this to us. So, you know, I mean, I was a bit embarrassed. I said, but you know, this NPTEL lecture series is pretty old, and many of it, much of it has become quite dated, I would say. So, but they said, no, madam, but the basics are still the best. And it's not, I mean, we haven't found anything else to be compared with that. And starting from our seniors, you know, many years our senior, down the line, through generations, we have been studying your NPTEL lectures. And now that you are here, we would love to take a selfie with you. So, you know, incidents like this, you know, I mean, you just asked me what I mean by success, right? So this is what I mean by success. I mean, in a very small scale, my success is that I've been able to touch so many lives of so many. One thing I have learned, I mean, I try to follow this, you know, that education does not mean how many degrees you have achieved. Okay. You see, I told you my mother was not highly educated in the formal sense, but that doesn't mean that I respect her any less. Okay. I had a lady working for me for nearly 20 years. She used to live in my outhouse, her family, and we almost became like family. She is hardly educated, but I have found her to be one of the most intelligent persons I have come across. So for me, education and degrees, they are not synonymous. I have found that many people with a lot of degrees have a very closed mind, whereas many people with not so much of formal education, they really have the vision. So that is one of the life's lessons learned, that I do not judge people by the degrees. Okay. And the second thing is that this is, of course, my observation as a teacher. mostly you will see that the student-teacher relationship is a very funny relationship. It's a professional relationship, but it cannot just remain as a professional relationship, at least as far as I'm concerned. So I do not know, many people may not agree with me, but what I have found is that I I need to know them personally, to understand what their problems are, what problems they are facing. Particularly as far as women research scholars are concerned, many of my women research scholars, they're very intelligent, they're doing very well, they're very sincere, but they do face a lot of personal angst in their lives. Okay, and I think this is where I like to interact with them, because I have also been through the same path, not maybe to the same extent, but something similar, So, uh, so this is something I try to do, and this is another of my life's lessons, that you cannot. I do not want to keep my relationship with the students completely at an impersonal, professional level. I do. Try to mentor them to the extent possible. Not lose faith in yourself. I have been through many very low points in my life. I wish somebody told me at that time that this too will pass. It did pass eventually. But the most important thing, I told you that my husband was a big support, and he kept on telling me, I wish, I could tell myself the same thing, that don't lose faith in yourself. This too will pass. Yeah. So, my contribution has been actually, I can say that it has two sides. One is, of course, in education, and the other is in women empowerment. So, as far as education is concerned, I told you that I do a lot of this distance teaching. This NPTEL is one such issue. I was also the chairperson of a school. We have two schools inside IIT Madras campus. One of the schools is run by a trust, and a faculty member from IIT Madras is the chairperson of that trust. So I was the chairperson of this school, Vanavani, and tried to bring about some positive changes, hopefully positive changes. I do think that these were positive changes, because when I was handing over charges, all the teachers said in that meeting that in these 3 years they have really seen a lot of positive changes. The first thing I did was, when I took over charge, I called all the teachers, and I called them, in groups, primary, middle school, secondary, like that. And I asked their opinion about what they think should be done in order to improve everything about the school. That is not just the results, the holistic this thing. And the teachers were so happy. They said, Madam, this is the first time our opinion was sought for. But they are the best people, right? They are the teachers. So they should tell what kind of hardships they are facing. So I'm very glad to note that the school has been doing consistently well ever since. And many of the changes that we started are in place now, and school is doing fine. So that is one thing in the education sector. I was also associated with the other school, that is Kendriya Vidyalaya. They also had a committee to run the school, and I have also taken part in that, and similarly tried to bring about positive changes. But then, of course, in KV, things are a bit more difficult, because they are run by their Sangathan. So many of the things that you suggest, they may not get passed in the KV Sangathan. Whereas for Vanavani, we really had a free hand, so we could bring about a lot of changes. Apart from that, my other work has been in the field of women empowerment. So one of them is inside IIT itself. In 2020, so one of our ex-students, she was my hostel mate, she passed away. And in her memory, some of us, we started a fellowship program. And then as an offshoot of that fellowship program, we started a mentorship program, which is called Steward. It's actually an acronym for STEM Women Research Scholars Development. And as part of this Steward, I'm a mentor for this Steward. So I have been mentor to a few research scholars, and we discuss not just academic problems, but also many other problems. In fact, one problem that many students were facing was after this COVID, when research scholars were coming back, but they were not being given hostel accommodation. They found it very difficult to stay outside. Financially, they found it difficult to manage. And Steward, with the help of IIT Madras, IIT Madras has been very proactive, I must say. So Steward, with the help of IIT Madras, they tried to come to the aid of all these students. So Steward mentorship program is a very, very dynamic program. We have undergone a number of training sessions where we have been told about how to be an effective mentor and things like that. So that is one thing. Then there is another thing. Some of my Jadavpur friends, they have started an organization called Shrija. And this is in West Bengal. It's the first one started in the Birbhum district. You might have heard of Birbhum. This is where Shantiniketan Vishwabharati is located. So this is the same district. They started this program among the tribal women. So at first it started with a sports facility. They started to teach these tribal girls football. And the idea was that not only their physical health, but also, how do they learn to work together? How do they develop confidence and things like that? And then somewhere along the way, I became associated with them. And then we also started looking at their educational aspects. So many of them are first generation learner, and it was difficult to, even though some of them sat for the school living exam, very few qualified. All that has changed slowly. So now we have a good library. Now the students are doing quite well in their school living exam. And these students who have completed their school living, along with pursuing their higher studies, they're also teaching the younger kids. So it's becoming a kind of self-sustaining process. So Shrija India is actually doing a lot of stuff. They have now opened another branch in another district, that is Bardwan district. They have opened another branch. And now they're attracting attention. They're getting a lot of support. Berthe Institute has recently donated a lot of books for them. And so it's again a holistic development of the tribal girls. I love to say this about myself, that I am a very average person. Okay. And many people have told me that you are just being humble. I'm not being humble. For me, the point is that, I had very good family support, you see. And I'm a daughter. My father lives with me, I told you. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I have fitted into all these three roles. And I am also a professor. So most students, particularly girl students who come in contact with me, I think they go away with the feeling that if she can do it, so can I. You understand? I'm nothing exceptional. I'm nothing exceptional that, I'm totally career minded. I do not have a family or things like that. It's nothing like that. They see that, I have one foot in my family and one foot in the department. How do you do that is a very good question. I think the only thing I have been able to do is to compartmentalize myself. This was particularly true when my son was very small. Always, with a small kid, you always have a lot of problems. Sometimes the kid will fall sick. Sometimes something will happen. Maybe they will have some problems in the school and things like that. One thing I told myself, that when I'm in the department, I'm not going to think about anything like that. I'm completely going to shut my mind off. I come back from the department, then I start thinking about this. So I think this is very important. You have to compartmentalize yourself. Otherwise, it's very difficult. The second thing is, of course, I mean, most women, we do suffer from a guilt complex. It's always there. Whether we admit it or not, it's always there. I think Indra Nui also mentioned the same thing, right? So, I mean, I do not have as busy a life as she does, but I still, in my limited capacity, it happens. You kind of feel that maybe I'm not doing all the things that my mother was doing for me. I'm not cooking as much. I'm not taking my kids out as much. I'm not spending as much time. So, I mean, in order to get rid of this guilt complex, I hit upon a nice idea which has worked very well for us. That was in the evenings, I'll sit with my son for his studies. So every day, it was like that. I mean, I'll sit with him. I'm doing my own stuff. I'm probably doing, sometimes I'll do my own stuff. I'll correct papers, or I'll prepare for my next day's class. But we are in the same room, and whenever he has any doubt or anything, he will ask me, and I'll clarify those doubts. So he also knew that these 2 hours in the evening, this is what mom gives exclusively to me. So it's there. And in the process, I mean, I also was quite familiar with how he's doing in the school. I could also take care of all those things and make sure that he's doing his homework and all that. So everybody works out something like that, I mean, to make it sustainable. You just have to do something, have to find out something which works best for me. I would bring back my mom. My mom passed away at a very early age, she passed away when I was about 29. I think she was not yet 60 at that time. She was 58 or so. And she hasn't really seen me achieve anything. So if I could undo something, I would bring her back. I don't know really, Suprit. You see, I'm going to retire from IIT in 5 years. Okay. And right now, my idea is that after I retire, I'm going to pursue something else. Not engineering, maybe, not teaching, maybe, but I'm going to learn something. You see, there are things that I wanted to learn. I didn't have time or whatever. And even though, I mean, I know I'll never be a concert singer, but I love music. I would love to, learn music formally, or learn painting. These are two of things which I used to like to do when I was young, but I couldn't really pursue them. And maybe I would like to do something like that. Then again, I mean, I'm very fond of reading. I read a lot of stuff. And when I'm reading those things, sometimes some ideas come to my head. And I think that maybe, I mean, I can do a research. I can do some research on this. And maybe, I mean, I'll start doing research in a completely different area. Yeah, that is the thing I was telling you about. No, I dreamt of being a singer. In fact, at one point of time, I was learning classical music, and my teacher had very high hopes for me. And this was towards my final year in engineering. Okay. And at that point, I was even toying with the idea that maybe maybe engineering could be the secondary occupation, and maybe I could seriously take up music. It didn't happen, It didn't happen. And I mean, I came to IIT Madras for my master's and all that. And of course, I mean, I haven't really pursued classical music after that. But I still love music. I still love music. And I love listening to music. And yeah, that is one thing, one dream which remained unfulfilled. A lot of things, actually. But one thing which I find very energizing is, when I'm teaching a class and the student asks a question which completely throws me off. I mean, I haven't thought about it in that line. It doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, it's really really something interesting, because very often what has happened is that it has happened a couple of times that it started a completely new chain of thought and maybe resulted in a research problem. So it's actually teaching a class is very energizing. I mean, teaching a class of, I must say, bright young students. It's a very, very energizing process. That's why I don't like the online classes so much. Somehow that energy is missing most of the times. But when you are actually teaching a physical class, the collective energy of the students and the questions they ask, that really keeps you going. That's really an event in your calendar. Okay, so today I have to teach this particular topic, and particularly if it so happens that that topic is very close to your heart, you do a lot of research in that, and you are going to teach that topic. Then, since morning I'm on, I'm kind of jumping around. Okay, today I'm going to do this. Today I'm going to deal with this particular thing. So yeah, I mean, teaching in a class is a very, very nice, very energizing experience, and it happens. I mean, I remember giving a lecture in France some 3 years ago. Went for a lecture in France, and after the lecture, this guy, he came and he couldn't speak very good English. In his he is from, I think, Algeria. There are a lot of Algerian students in France. So he came and he spoke to me and he said, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher like you. If I can teach as well as you, I'll consider myself fortunate. So it's not language or anything. I don't know what clicks, basically what exactly, but obviously you establish a connect with the student. This kind of a connect, that is very energizing. Incidentally, that student was the best student speaker in that conference. Okay, so I mean, I consider myself really, really very, very privileged. I sing. Singing is a very good stress buster, and I cook. That is also another very good stress buster. Of course, I don't cook only for myself. I cook for the family. But yeah, I found cooking and singing are very good stress busters. So many things I want to do, I really want to do, I mean, I don't know, I mean, all these kind of adventure sports. I'm not a very sporty person, so I'm not really very sure whether I'll finally have the nerve to do it. But I would like to go for this paragliding. This looks so interesting. I still remember we were in Germany at that time. We went to visit this Neuschwanstein Castle. I don't know if you have heard of that. This is the castle on which the Cinderella's castle in Disneyland is modeled. Okay, so this Neuschwanstein is a beautiful white castle in the Alps. And while we were waiting for the queue, for entry, we could see a lot of paragliders. Summertime in Germany, a lot of people go in that area for paragliding. It looks so interesting. I mean, this is something I would like to try. Whether I'll have the nerve to do it or not, I do not know. But paragliding is something. I don't know why I would like to do.